webinar series number 2, which is on leveraging technology for teacher professional development. Before we start, I would like to give you some housekeeping guidelines. We do have interpretation available. If you would like to switch to French or Portuguese, please find the interpretation button on the bottom of your Zoom app. And recordings and PowerPoint will be made available. Sorry, we have one hand from the interpreter. Is everything okay? Yeah. Anyway, we do have the recording, and PowerPoint will be made available on ICBA's website, and as soon as we upload those, we'll share them. And lastly, you're more than free to discuss any content and pose questions. Please use the Q&A box and the chat box for any comments. And keep your microphone on mute so we can hear the speakers clearly. Thank you. That's all. Without further ado, please allow me to pass it to our director, Dr. Quentin Walden, to give us opening remarks. Thank you. Quentin, to you.
Thanks, Camilla. Thanks, everybody, for joining. So I'm the director of ICBA, the International Institute for Capacity Building in Africa. I won't take long. I just want to mention, as Camilla did, that this is the Africa Teachers webinar series. It's monthly. I want to thank two main sponsors for the series. That is KICS, which is funded by the Global Partnership for Education and Canada's IDRC, and specifically the KICS Africa 19 Hub, but also the European Union Regional Teacher Initiative for Africa. And we are very thankful that they are also co-sponsoring this series. The other members of the group putting together the series include the African Union, as well as AFTRA, that is the Africa Federation of Teaching Regulatory Authorities. And for those who are interested, they will have their annual conference in Angola in just about 2 months now. So this is an important event for all of those who care about teachers in Africa. This webinar is part of a series of 3 on teacher professional development and how to improve teacher professional development. I should mention, though, that this is about technology today, but it's the first installment. The next 3 webinars on teachers in the overall series will all be on technology, on ICT, on digital skills, on AI. And after the various presentations by the speakers, if you have any comments or if you have any suggestions, or simply using the chat, do not hesitate to make suggestions in terms of the topics that we should cover in those 3 follow-up webinars. So the first series is 3 on teacher continuous professional development. The next series is another 3, and all those 3 will go more in depth on issues of ICT, digital skills, and AI. So again, send us your suggestions. I should say that ICBA is doing a few things on digital skills for teachers and how to use ICT for professional development. So I just want to mention 2 or 3. First, for those who are interested, we are now managing a tool that was called ePass. And that can be used to measure different skills, literacy, numeracy, but also digital skills. And we are developing that tool. And we would love to apply it in different countries with different partners. The idea is to try to measure, for example, before and after an intervention, for the digital skills of teachers or the digital skills even of learners. Ideas on that also are very welcome. We have a very small, for now, e-learning platform, but we are designing 5 courses that will be a suite of courses on digital skills for teachers. I mean, starting with very basic things, then going into terms of how we can use different types of softwares or different types of resources, audio, video, games, and so on, to help teachers enrich the class that they give, and then going into some more specific topics where ICT can be useful. Finally, I should mention that we have a program of work, including under the European Union Regional Teacher Initiative for Africa, on trying to think about the right frameworks at the country level and at the continental level, that is at the level of the African Union, for digital skills for teachers. And so we are going to prepare a number of guidance notes with the African Union on those topics. I don't want to take too long. I just wanted you to know some of the topics that we are considering at IGBA. And of course, we are happy to consider other topics based on the demand from countries or the ideas that some of you may have. So let me stop here. And wish you a great webinar. We welcome your feedback, and I hope that the webinar series really responds to what you would like to hear. And if that's not the case, you tell us, and then we make changes, right? So it's easy. So back to you, Camelia.
Thank you so much, Quentin. And yeah, thank you. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to suggest that in the chat box or email us directly. And one more note on that, if you attend all 3 webinars in one unit, then you can get a digital certificate of participation of the webinar series. Thank you. I don't want to take more time. So please now join me in welcoming Hannah Simmons, who is the country lead for Tanzania of EdTech Hub, to give us the keynote address. Thank you. Back over to you, Hannah.
Thank you very much, Camelia, and good afternoon, everyone. This is Hannah Simmons, co-country lead for EdTech Hub in Tanzania. It's a great honor to be delivering this keynote speech as a Regional Teachers Initiative for Africa grantee. So I'm really excited to be here to talk about leveraging technology for teacher professional development. Next slide, please. So a bit about EdTech Hub. Our goal is to make education leaders, to help them make effective decisions about the role of technology in education. And we do that by building and using reliable and practical evidence. Our vision is to improve learning outcomes for all children in low and middle income countries through effective, equitable, affordable, and scalable uses of EdTech. And we recognize that teachers are pivotal in that. Next slide, please. So in Tanzania, our portfolio consists of teacher professional development, data for decision-making, and also climate and emergency resilience in education systems. The way that we deliver our work is through connecting theory and practice. So we have a large research component, which comprises of qualitative and quantitative insights regarding how and why technology can be used in education systems at different levels. We also provide technical assistance to governments through our help desk and also through establishing long-term and collaborative relationships with governments in the countries that we work in. And then we put that all together and we develop and test innovations in education by working directly with implementers in sandboxes, which really are replicating the real life environment to make sure that we understand exactly how innovations work in the real world before looking at how they could be scaled. So our main concerns when it comes, sorry, could we just go back to the previous slide? Our main concerns when it comes to EdTech are how we can influence the spending of money on personalized learning, ending simplistic approaches to messaging, improving learning outcomes for girls, enhancing data-driven decision-making, And the area that I'll focus on today is improving learning through teacher professional development. Next slide, please. So teacher quality is the most important determinant of learning outcomes at school level. But in many countries, teachers are in short supply, they're isolated, for example, in rural areas, and they're not well supported to provide effective teaching and learning to students. When we think about teacher professional development, the traditional model is important to consider. So that model follows what you can see here on the screen, which is kind of a cascade model, whereby the content of the teacher professional development is designed at a central high level. And that content is delivered through a series of trainings, beginning perhaps at a national level with training of master trainers, then going to a regional and then a district level with other training of trainers. And eventually that training will be delivered to teachers on the ground in their own locality. But the problem with that approach is that it's very top down. So when content is developed centrally at a high level, it often neglects teachers' voices and the practical realities that they're facing when they're teaching. So, for example, Africa as a continent is not homogeneous in its culture or even in its language. And within a country, particularly a country as big, for example, as Tanzania, there are many regions with many subcultures and many sub-realities for those teachers, which are often not represented in this cascade model. We also find that it has diluted effects because at each stage, the content is diluted depending on the understanding of the trainer, and that becomes very costly. And finally, it's also inflexible and slow to adapt. So when there is new content or there's a change in curriculum, we have to go all the way back to the beginning and begin this model of delivery again. Next slide, please. So what are the benefits and opportunities that technology offers? Well, first, it's really important to remember that when we talk about technology, we're not talking about one device. We're talking about the use of various different devices. For example, radios, projectors, tablets, basic and smartphones, and even soft copy PDFs, etc. So technology can help with a more streamlined delivery of approved content. For example, if there's a change to the curriculum, content can be updated and then could be distributed directly to teachers' phones or to a network such as a computer network. Mobile phones, tablets, and social media and messaging can also support remote peer learning, which is actually very popular with teachers, for example, through WhatsApp group chats or forums. And that's been found to be the most popular way in which technology is used by teachers for their professional development. Videos can act as a powerful tool for modeling and reflecting good practices, and technology can help reduce the costs as a long-term teacher professional development mechanism. As I mentioned, if there are changes, it's much more scalable when delivered through technology. And teachers can also have access to distance learning materials. So even if they're living in remote areas, they could access content of a high quality. Finally, it provides access to open educational resources, such as massive online curriculums as well. Next slide, please. But of course, technology comes with its challenges and with its risks. So there's a high initial cost for the procurement, distribution, and installation of technology that shouldn't be overlooked. There's also a high barrier to entry when we consider teachers' low digital literacy skills in many areas. And that might be true of teachers as well as head teachers and local government who could be playing a supportive role. The bandwidth and data costs required to access content online or even to download content and watch offline often limit the ability of teachers to engage meaningfully. There's also a low capacity to maintain devices and incompatible school infrastructure. So this might mean that there's a lack of storage, and there's also exposure to, for example, power surges, And when that happens, there is a lack of skilled expertise to come and fix or maintain those devices. When we want to introduce tech-enhanced TPD, we also need to think about the behavior change that is needed. So teachers have to become more sensitized to using technology to access this service, which may have been delivered through other mechanisms in the past. And technology can exacerbate existing inequalities. So for example, whether there's gender equity in access to and use of technology, and also considering the urban bias when it comes to access to internet. So that could become more exclusive, excluding those in rural areas. And there's an issue that we face around problematic data. So for example, it could be inaccurate in capturing data when it comes to teachers' engagement with TPD, because oftentimes teachers are actually using the same login or the same device. So it could become inaccurate as a source of data. Next slide, please. I'll now talk briefly about some of the experience we've had with tech-enhanced TPD in Tanzania. I know my time's limited, so I'll try not to rush too much, but also I might skim over some things. So we've been doing iterative improvement of the national e-learning management system. So this is a government-owned system which is designed to provide modules and self-paced learning content for teachers that helps them to conduct effective communities of learning in school and also their own self-paced learning at their own pace. Around this national TPD program, we've done design-based implementation research, and we're also currently undertaking research around accessibility and adaptability of this program. Next slide, please. So what have our successes been? Well, the e-learning management system has really evolved through the iterations we've done from what was originally a repository for TPD content to becoming an interactive platform that allows teachers to engage meaningfully with interactive content like video and audio, but also can track their engagement and access to TPD. User-centered improvements on this platform have increased access by over 85%, which we're really happy with. And we've also found that smartphones are more common than tablets, laptops, and other computer devices in schools. And that's allowed us to focus the type of content and the iterations to the platform to make sure that we're designing them to work really well on smartphones. But we've had a number of challenges, and those include teachers and local government officers' lack of awareness of the e-learning management platform, its content, and its purpose. We're working to address that now, but it's certainly been a challenge when it comes to driving access to the platform. There's been a tension between TPDs as soft copy PDFs versus gathering data via the learning management system. And that's because it's much easier for teachers to share PDFs via WhatsApp. But if we foster that culture, it ultimately undermines the ability of the digital platform we're using to gather data on how, when, and for what teachers access this platform. There's limited access to devices, data, and digital literacy support across regions in Tanzania. And there's also a real need for thorough planning around certifying teachers who have completed communities of learning modules through the LMS. And that's because at the moment, we don't have very good verification mechanisms in place. So we need to think about what the weight we attach or significance we attach to certificates provided in response to this. Next slide, please. With our RTIA project, what we're looking at doing now is centering our support around peer facilitators, who are the ones who guide the delivery and action of the community of learning at the school level. So we're trying to do this through a holistic approach, whereby we'll improve the quality of peer-facilitated communities of learning in the target schools. We'll also continue to employ a user-centered approach, whereby we will use the LMS and equip it with content and functions which are really designed to meet peer facilitator needs. We will continue to promote localized adaptability by testing the use of local servers, for example, Raspberry Pis, to support offline access to the LMS on a regular basis. And we'll also continue to share our learnings as transparently as possible and make sure that they're disseminated nationally and internationally for wider benefit. Next slide, please. So
Sorry,
what are
Hannah,
our
could you
reflections?
Wrap up.
Yes, sure. This is just my last slide. So what are our reflections on leveraging technology for TPD? Tech-enhanced TPD should be user-centered in the design and the device used. So think about what teachers use. Leverage technology to enhance, but not exclude the human factor. Research has found that the human factor is still really important as much as technology is very cost-effective. It should be designed for scale, but at the same time, it should enable localized innovation and adaptation. So thinking about what the needs in a particular community are. And it should promote private sector support, so particularly around zero rating data to make it more accessible and affordable. And finally, how do we get there? We need to continue developing tools for supporting iterative user-centered design. We need to measure impact and undertake research so that we understand what enabling factors are for success. We should conduct cost analysis so that we make sure that governments are able to budget for short and long-term use of technology in TPD. And we should plan and implement holistically, considering the maintenance, storage, and human capacity needed. Thank you very much, and I'll hand back now to Camelia.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you for this very comprehensive overview of technology on TPD. I especially enjoyed your analysis on the benefits and challenges and risks of involving technology. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. Shafika from UNESCO headquarters to give us the opening presentation. And I believe, Shafika, you are using your laptop for the slides?
Yes, I am. And I wanted to ask if I could. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just going to quickly share my screen and then I'll commence. Is it visible? Share. Is that visible?
It's coming now. Just takes a few seconds.
Is that visible?
Yes, but it's not in presentation mode yet.
Yes, I'm trying to find it in slideshow. Great, thank you. That should be visible now, right?
Good, it's all good.
Please yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind introduction and a very good afternoon to all the colleagues present from ICBA, the distinguished representatives from ministries of education across the African continent, and all the partners who have been involved in organizing this webinar series. I was asked to speak about the competency framework on AI, particularly for teachers, that we have launched at UNESCO's Digital Learning Week event in September last year, in 2024. So I'm going to be very brief in offering a high-level overview, and will invite colleagues to have a closer look at the framework, and very importantly, to look at the possibilities of engaging with UNESCO on how the ideas that we're articulating in this framework can be contextualized, operationalized in contexts where each of you are located, because we recognize that it is at this stage a high-level guidelines framework, with the intention of engaging with education practitioners, policymakers, and recontextualizing the framework for local relevance. And so that's quite an important point that I'd like to start with. The AI competency framework has an accompanying AI competency framework for students. And the two frameworks talk to each other, and it is intended for engagement and dialogue with ministries of education and their partners in looking at how this can be applied in local education contexts. So I think the important point to emphasize is that the AI competency framework for teachers builds on an established ICT competency framework for teachers that UNESCO launched way back in 2008, and it evolved through different iterations to the latest version in 2018. And many of the ministries of education across Africa have in fact adopted the UNESCO ICT competency frameworks. I see many of my colleagues that I've worked with before, having been based in South Africa before. We've worked on developing and adopting the ICT competency frameworks in a number of member states and ministries of education in Africa. So the question is, why did we feel there is a need for an AI competency framework? And the rationale has been informed by a recognition that artificial intelligence is a class of technologies that offers a wide range of affordances, risks, dynamics, and influences in education that warrants us to pay attention and develop frameworks and guidelines that can help respond to the particular different influences that this class of technologies called AI is influencing our education systems. So I'm not going to have time to go into all of the dimensions of AI technologies and how it is different from the previous classes of technologies, but perhaps to say that with the emerging trends in AI, we are increasingly seeing that these machine learning technologies can in fact learn from data. They can identify patterns in data systems. They can make predictions, and they can also increasingly on their own and autonomously generate and create new content in different formats, in text, in audio, in video, in image, that we've not seen with previous classes of technologies. And that the AI technologies now are becoming increasingly autonomous. We've just learned that some AI technologies are increasingly offering to fulfill the role of the teacher in the classroom, because it offers the agency. It is designed as an agent to be able to teach independently, it claims, of teachers in the classroom. And we've already seen the launch of a dedicated AI classroom in the UK, where they are teacherless, so they claim, and that the AI is actually doing the teaching. And so that's just a brief reflection of the rapid changes that we are seeing with AI technologies and the way they are being taken up in education systems worldwide, that warrants our attention and also the guidance from UNESCO in terms of how we should be responding to these changes. We also know that there are different ways in which AI is coming into the education system. We've seen that there are student-facing AI tools. There are dedicated teacher-facing AI tools, such as teacher assistants, even teacher assessment support, lesson generation tools that are based on ChatGPT and generative AI technologies. And that there are also system-facing AI tools that education systems around the world are already adopting. And often that focuses attention on how we can learn, teach, and assess with AI. But we are also seeing that there are tools and courses and programs that focus attention on learning about AI, such as AI literacy courses that are now being offered at universities, at schools. And this focuses attention on learning about how the AI technologies work, understanding machine learning, and also very importantly, understanding how these technologies are influencing not just our education systems, but society at large. And so because of this rapid shift that we are beginning to see in our education systems and the adoption of these technologies, UNESCO felt it important that we develop a range of guidelines and frameworks, including the AI competency framework for teachers, which we are talking about today. But very importantly, this class of technologies also poses wide-ranging risks to our education systems, chief amongst which is that it potentially challenges the agency and rights of teachers. It potentially creates new forms of discrimination and exclusion. It also potentially infringes on our privacy, our security, through utilizing access to the data systems. Every time we are engaging in social media, when we are on Facebook and so on, we are in fact making available our personal data, and AI risks infringing on our privacy and utilizing our data to advertise goods to us and also on-sell our data to companies for profit. And so these are some of the risks that we are already seeing to our education systems and also to our own well-being as individuals and citizens in our respective countries. There are also wide-ranging risks to society, such as the effects of investing in AI on climate change, the fact that it consumes significant amounts of water and natural resources to the extent that it threatens climate change. It also is prone to biases, disinformation and discrimination. And as I've indicated earlier, it can also risk deepening existing inequalities. And we've already seen some evidence of these risks emerging in society as well. So the AI competency framework for teachers is offered as a living process. It's a living document, meaning that what is available currently is subject to discussion and debate and local contextualization. And so we are hoping to engage with all of you on the parts that you think may be relevant and the parts that you think may not quite work in your respective contexts. The way we've designed the AI competency framework is that it is primarily informed by three guiding principles. That in the design of this framework, we wanted to ensure that we center the design on the defense and the promotion of the rights of teachers, on teachers' autonomy and teacher agency, and particularly that we defend and promote equity and inclusion in our education systems through the adoption of this particular framework. The second is that it is informed by ethical principles and values, and the idea of fostering a citizenship amongst all of us who are users and co-creators of these technologies in ways that are relevant to our local contexts. And very importantly, it is designed to support the teacher education systems, teacher education institutions, the development of institutional and national policy and practice with AI, particularly in terms of leveraging AI to support in constructive and agential and humanistic ways to support teacher development as a lifelong learning profession. So those are some of the key principles that have guided the design of this framework. And how it is structured, very briefly, is that we've identified 5 key aspects that the framework needs to focus on in terms of the kinds of knowledge, the kinds of skills, the kinds of values, and the kinds of attitudes that we think teachers and teacher educators would need when engaging with AI technologies and when embarking on professional development journeys with AI technologies. And those 6 competency aspects include, for example, that we believe it's very important to develop the mindset, the attitude of AI as a human-centered technology, that it is designed by humans, by people, that it needs to be engaged with from the perspective of centering the agency of us as humans, as people, as teachers, as students, and so forth. And so the competency is about developing the mindset, the attitude, the awareness of the human-centeredness, and to therefore take control. And that also means knowing the moments when we refuse to use AI, when we think it causes harm or that it is problematic. And so having the competencies, the skills, the knowledge to be able to recognize that that AI is controlled and centered by humans, and to ensure that we retain and preserve our agency as humans and as teachers. The second relates to the ethics of AI, and there we are focusing on teachers needing to understand and engage with the ethical principles that underpin the design, the co-creation, and the use of AI in education, in teaching practice, and in professional development. The third is a very important dimension, and that is that we believe and would like to engage with you on the idea that as teachers, we need to understand how the AI technologies work. We need to have a foundational knowledge of how AI is designed, how it works, how the techniques and applications are designed, and how they can be improved as co-creators of AI technologies. But for that, we need a foundational understanding of how the technologies work, how the applications work, and therefore we believe that that is an important competency aspect for all of us to understand as teachers and as teacher educators. We also need to understand how AI supports the teaching and learning process, the AI pedagogies, for instance. And so we believe that that area, this theme of AI pedagogies, is an important competency aspect that we also need to be including in this framework. And then the final aspect relates to AI and its use for continuing lifelong learning and teacher professional development. And so what we've done is recognize that there are these 5 critical competency aspects, and that we've identified at least 3 progression levels. And you could argue that it is from basic to intermediate to advanced. It is from first understanding and acquiring the knowledge, applying it and deepening our knowledge, and then progressing towards the competency levels where we can create technologies, where we can operate at a societal level and influence the design of AI technologies for the betterment and improvement of society at large, our education systems at large, etc. Some people have argued that it is at the level of the individual, at the level of our institutions, and at the level of society is another way of also thinking of the progression in our competencies and capabilities, skills and knowledge in the use and design of AI technologies. So in a nutshell, that is the very high level overview of the framework matrix. And each of these competency blocks mapped against the competency aspects have very detailed insights on the kinds of curriculum goals we need to be setting when we want to, for example, develop teacher capabilities and competencies at the acquire level. And I'm just going to demonstrate that. So if we take the first competency aspect, human-centered mindset, and wanting to develop that competency at the acquire level, that we identified and clarified that that competency means that teachers are expected to cultivate an understanding that AI is fundamentally human-directed, and they have the competency to critically assess its impact on human autonomy. We are proposing curricular goals for each of the aspects and in each of the competency blocks for each of the progression levels. So for the acquire progression level on the human-centered mindset, we are proposing that teacher training programs should have as its curricular goals demonstrating how AI tools that teachers are already adopting or may not be aware of, that they may be made aware of AI tools and the way they are designed and the extent to which they are human-directed and how they can expose possible risks to teachers human agency, and that teacher training programs, in fact, include these tools as opportunities for learning about how these tools are designed so that teachers can raise their awareness. We've also included dedicated learning objectives mapped against each of the identified competencies, and also raised suggestions on the kinds of activities that can be included in courses on teacher development programs that are designed to develop this particular competency around a human-centered mindset. So the entire framework proposes, makes suggestions for how these competencies can be framed, makes suggestions for curricular goals for teacher training programs, suggestions for learning objectives as well as activities, on the understanding that these very dimensions are the areas where your local expertise, your experience as teacher, education, educators, as institutes, as ministries of education, where there are dedicated teacher education departments and branches, that these serve really as a basis for a conversation. And I'm emphasizing that this is not a blueprint. It is really serving a basis for engagement and refinement by yourselves in ways that are more relevant to you, because we recognize that some of the formulations may not actually work in certain contexts. And so it is an invitation that we make this a collective living process rather than a blueprint document. And that is the invitation to the colleagues attending this meeting. What we have also proposed is that the implementation and adoption of AI competency frameworks in ministries of education, we are proposing that the adoption also be accompanied by AI in education policies. And I'm aware that in a number of African countries, in fact, a large number of the 54 member states in Africa have some form of ICT in education policy. I'm aware that in a country like Namibia, where I've worked, we have upgraded the latest ICT policy in education to a digital learning policy that also incorporates the influence of AI and policy responses to AI technologies. And there too, a recognition that the policy needs to address issues of developing teacher competencies in AI as well. And so our proposal is that the AI competency framework not be adopted in isolation of also looking at how the existing policy environment offers an enabling space to adopt an AI competency framework for teachers, and also in ways that addresses some of the barriers to the use of AI. We're aware of the unequal infrastructure, digital infrastructure, connectivity, access to devices that are highly uneven across the African continent, and that policies are engaging and have made recommendations on how we can universalize connectivity and digital access, including access to safe, trustworthy, and responsible AI tools. And so our recommendation is that we also develop responsible AI in education policies alongside the adoption of the AI competency framework. And I'm aware that time is limited, but that we also explore the regulation of AI to ensure that they are designed in and used ethically, safely, in ways that are trustworthy and responsible, and that does not place our learners, our teachers, our education principals, our education officials, and society at large in harm's way. And so therefore the onus is upon all of us as actors in the education system to explore ways in which we can control the harmful dimensions of AI, but that we also are very proactive in the design of AI systems that are trustworthy, that are ethical, that are safe for educational use. And so in a nutshell, what we are proposing as UNESCO is that we also explore the regulatory environment alongside the policy environment in the adoption of AI in our national systems, as well as the accompanying adoption and implementation of AI competency frameworks in ways that are contextually relevant. I'm going to conclude on that note and then reiterating the invitation to engage with all of us in UNESCO as an open, ongoing conversation. And I'm really looking forward to further engagement with all of you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to, at least at a very high level, introduce this conversation with you all. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shafika, and thank you so much for the thorough presentation of the AI framework of UNESCO. Next, we have Professor Panseri. Professor Panseri, if you are in the room, could you please raise your hand so my colleague can enable your microphone? Maybe there is some technology issues happening with Professor Panseri. So while we wait for him to connect online, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Gabriel Job, who will present on the role of AI and ICT for teacher trainings in Africa. Oh, sorry. Is that Professor Panseri? One second. Hello? This person named Ongunlad. Well, we'll come back to this. I think it's better if we move on as time is limited. So Dr. Job, the floor is yours. I'll share my screen.
All right. Good afternoon from Abuja here in Nigeria. My name is Dr. Gabriel Job. I'm there to speak on the role of artificial intelligence and information communication technology in teachers training in Africa. Next slide, please. All right, Africa consists of 52 countries, and that is from the United Nations. That is the Africa we are talking about today. And as a word of introduction, teacher training is a process of educating and preparing individuals to become effective teachers. And there are about 4 types of teacher training. We have the initial teacher training. That's to enable you have, a degree in either a bachelor's degree in education or postgraduate degree in education. That is the initial one. Then we have the induction or orientation training, which is like bringing the teachers to the qualified teachers, orientating them into the program of the organization. And then we have the continuing professional development, and then the in-service training. All these are the various types of teacher training that we have. Next slide. Next slide, please. All right. The information communication technology, we need to establish the relationship between information communication technology and artificial intelligence. Here we have said that information communication technology is the foundation, ICT is the foundation for AI. It provides the basic infrastructure for AI systems. The hardware, the software, all the networks that drives AI is provided by information communications technology. Data collection and processing, it enables the collection, storage, and processing of large data sets, which are essential for training and developing AI models. Communication and connectivity. ICT facilities communicate and connect between devices, systems, and people, enabling AI applications to interact with their environment. And then what is the relationship between AI to ICT? Of course, we're talking about enhancement. Intelligent system of AI, it enables the development of intelligent systems that can analyze data, make decisions, and learn from experience. These are all that AI can enhance the work of ICT, automation and then optimization. AI can automate routine tasks, optimize processes, and improve the efficiency of ICT systems. Enhance service user experience. AI-powered chatbots, virtual assistants, and all the like helps the ICT applications. Next slide. Now, what is the role of ICT in teacher training in Africa? Like every other continent, ICT has come to stay is a powerful tool in the training of teachers. First, enhance experience, learning experience. The teachers thrive in instructional materials. So with ICT, e-learning platforms, online learning provides access to courses, resources, and assessments, facilitating flexible and self-paced learning. Virtual classrooms enable real-time interaction between teachers and trainers, promoting collaborations and discussions. ICT-based simulations and modeling tools help teachers develop problem-solving skills and experiment with new teaching strategies. Online libraries and repositories provide teachers with access to a vast array of educational resources, including ebooks, articles, and multimedia content. These are all the new things that empower the teachers in training. Online courses and certification programs, the teachers can now go on to acquire more courses, call it the short courses, micro credentials, and then enhance their level of participation in the society. Monitoring and coaching. ICT facilitates monitoring and coaching, providing teachers with personalized support and guidance. Next slide. we're still talking about the role of ICT in teacher training, and we're going to look at the role of ICT in assessment and quizzes. ICT enables teachers to create and administer online assessment and quizzes, streamlining the evaluation process. So instead of doing it mechanically, it's now ICT that enables them to facilitate this fast. Digital literacy. ICT helps teachers develop the digital literacy skills necessary to effectively integrate technology into their teaching practice. ICT enables teachers to develop technology-enhanced pedagogy, promoting innovative and effective teaching methods. Online safety and digital citizenship. ICT helps teachers develop the skills and knowledge necessary to promote online safety and digital citizenship. It provides teachers with access to learning analytics, enabling them to track student progress and then identify areas of improvement. Next slide, please. Now, we are looking at ICT and AI in terms of teacher training. Now, AI in teacher training, what is the role or the roles of AI in teacher training? First, we look at personalized learning and support.
I'm sorry, Professor Job. Are you still there? Is it just me, or does anyone else have the problem of Professor Job screen freezing?
Yeah, he's frozen, Kevin.
Offering
okay.
real-time feedback and guidance teaching practice.
Oh, okay, now he's back.
Sorry, Professor Job, you were frozen for a minute. I think we just lost him. Professor Job? You're muted. I'm sorry, Professor Job, you are muted.
So
There
can I
you go.
continue?
Yes,
Should I
please.
continue? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. We are talking about simulation-based training, virtual classrooms, which is empowered by AI, simulate real-world teaching environments, allowing teachers to practice and hone their skills in a safe and controlled space. Simulated students, AI-powered simulated students mimic the behavior and interactions of real students, so enabling the teacher to feel at ease and then maybe demonstrate other strategies. Then automated generation. AI can generate educational content such as lesson plans, quizzes, and assessments, and all that. So please, next slide. Content curation. Content curation, AI-powered content curation tools help teachers discover, organize, and then share relevant educational resources. Then we look at assessment and feedback. Automated grading, AI-powered automated grading system can score assessment and then assessment and exams, reducing teachers' workload and providing instant feedback.
Sorry, Professor Job, I think there's a connection
Just
problem.
language. Then learning analytics. AI-powered learning analytics provides insights into teachers' learning behaviors, helping identify areas for improvement and information and informing professional development. Then the predictive analytics. Let's go to the next slide. So like, next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, are there ethical considerations in AI applications? Okay, we are looking at the, I thought we were supposed to look at the ethical considerations. Okay, the future of ICT and AI in teacher training in Africa. So we have said AI-powered assistants. AI assistants will become increasingly sophisticated, providing personalized guidance, feedback, and support to students. A massive learning experience. AI will enable a massive learning experiences through virtual reality, augmented reality, and simulations, making learning more engaging and impactful. Personalized learning at scale. AI will empower educators to deliver personalized learning experiences to a large number of students, adapting instructional based on individual needs. Adapting instruction based on individual needs. Yes, this please. Oh, thank you for the attention and opportunity to speak at this level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Job. Do we have Professor Panseri in the room? If not, we'll go on to the next presentation by Dr.
I'm around.
Tuladi.
I'm around.
Okay,
Panseri is
great.
around.
Great. Thank you, Professor Panseri. I'll go to your slides then. Please respect the time. It will be 15 minutes. And
should I go on, or you are changing to Professor Panseri?
Can we please give the floor to Professor Panseri first, and then
Okay.
Dr. Tuladi
Okay,
can
fine.
continue. Thank you. Yes. No, the floor is yours, Professor Panseri.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry for the hiccup. I'm from Botswana. I'm here in Botswana. Yes, my topic is using blended learning approaches for in-service teacher development. And I've added in a small portion that's the opportunity of Buteko. I'm actually using the experience of the project that is running at the moment, coordinated all and above by Botswana Professional Teaching Council. So that's where I'm coming from. Next slide, Chair. Yes, I'm trying to reflect on the development of teacher management in Botswana. We started off after independence in 1975. That's when we had the first act that regulates the teaching management, which later changed from, it was then called Unified Teaching Service, and then it changed to Teaching Service Management in 1976. And then teachers were then in 2008 transferred to be managed through Public Service Act. At the moment, they are under public service. And we are moving towards getting teachers regulated under the Botswana Teaching Professionals Council, which was enacted through Act of Parliament in 2019. So the teacher management and professional development is going to be something that is a big job, really, a big assignment, a big task for the Botswana Teaching Professional Council. Next slide. Next slide, coordinator. Coordinator. Next slide. Right.
You would
Now,
like
Botswana
to,
teaching.
okay.
Yes. Botswana teaching. You jumped. Hey,
I'm
Botswana
sorry,
Teaching
I
Professional
think there is
Council.
a delay. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Buteko, yeah. And I want to reflect on its mandate. Its role is to license teachers. It's going to be promoting continuing education, teacher continuing education, training and professional development. It's going to be regulating the teaching profession. It's going to maintain professional and ethical standards for teachers, which would include teaching knowledge, skills, and competency. It will be responsible for the review and advice on professional standards of teachers. It will be advising on teacher training issues. It will establish, publish, review, and maintain a code of ethics for teachers. And it will monitor adherence to this code of ethics and also advocate for the teaching profession. So this is going to be the mandate of Buteko. Yes. Next slide. Next slide should reflect on the population that Buteko is going to handle. At the moment, this data is not so accurate because the primary education data, that's what is official at the moment, but is as far back as 2018. The secondary school data is from 2022, so it's not really the actual, but I was picking what is the actual in terms of the official data we have. So we are talking at the moment of the teacher qualifications that range from certificate through diploma to MPhil, PhD. And of course, we have some teachers who are not qualified, as you can see. In both cases, primary and secondary, you can see the certificate up to the unqualified. But generally, the population of primary school, as we have primary school teachers at the moment, we're talking of 13,969. And secondary, we are talking about 17,310. But like I'm saying, this may not be the really data today, but it gives us an idea of the volume of work that Buteko is going to deal with. Next slide. These are the people who will be needing in service, given this various qualification. Next slide, Chair. Yes. Now, Buteko will be dealing with teacher upskilling for professional relevance. You jumped, Chair or Coordinator? Coordinator, you jumped.
Sorry, Professor Pansiri, I think there is a delay in the network, but please go ahead on yeah.
Yes. So in terms of upskilling or actually doing the licensing, accreditation, promotion, and so on, Buteko will have to regulate the teaching profession, promote, like I said earlier on, promote continuing education, training, and professional development. And now, just recently, Buteko joined the Commonwealth of Learning through the African Federation for Teacher Regulatory Authority and Botswana Open University to facilitate development of continuous professional development framework for teachers in Botswana. So Buteko has just gone into this exercise in readiness to implement its mandate. The framework, which is still in the draft form for discussion, it emphasizes partnership and collaboration between Buteko and stakeholders and the institutions that offer ODL. Already, Buteko is in close work relationship with Botswana Open University. So we are seeing after Buteko and Bo, I would say they piloted a blended learning project. What we just went through last month is what I would consider, we use kind of hybrid approach, which is some kind of a blended learning approach. Yes, next slide. And like I say, Bo is already in the next slide, Chair. Botswana Open University is there now working with Buteko. I hope that relationship will grow into bigger things and get things done. Now, Botswana Open University itself is a dedicated ODL and embedded learning institution in Botswana. And I suspect so far it might be Dr. Tladi will bear with me. It must be the only dedicated blended learning institution in the country. And it has necessary infrastructure and experts. From the project that we just went through, it has demonstrated that it has the infrastructure, it has the experts. So it's the right organization that Boteco is partnered with. It has demonstrated its ability with and dedication to ODL and blended learning. From the just exercise that we have gone through, BOE has demonstrated ability and dedication. And the strategy for technology enhanced learning, teaching, assessment and support program or study support of BOE, that provides a window of opportunity for Boteco in terms of providing professional development and training for teachers. Now, the project, the partnership of AFTRA, Boteco, and BOE in the pilot scaling project that we've gone through is successfully accommodated over 100 teachers in a short space of time. Almost just training, we're able to bring the 100 teachers together, and that is evidence that Boteco and BOE can accommodate very large numbers of teachers around the country. The number that I gave. So this is evidence that Boteco and BOE are able to manage that volume. The scaling project incorporated face-to-face teaching in the classroom supported by ICT, including offline and online learning. The approach applied direct and indirect instruction, collaborative teaching, and individualized computer-assisted learning. Now, collaborative learning, constructive learning, and computer-assisted learning was evident. So the flexibility of ODL allows in-service teachers that have shown the number of followers in above in remote areas the opportunity to study. Botswana is a country with many districts with remote schools. So BOE has the ability to reach those. But of course, anything ought to be done by other partners. Yes, good.
Professor Panserio, can you wrap up in 2 minutes, please?
Okay, yes. Yes, the teaching blended learning for in-service teachers is possible because, and we like the human touch. Another slide, okay? Or if you don't mind, push another slide, push me to the recommendations, which I thought is important to share with colleagues. Push me to recommendation, Chair, coordinator. Well, those are challenges, obvious, but next slide. Next slide. These are things that I think will need to be considered by both Boteco, policy, and partners. Now, the critical one is developing teaching standards and code of ethics for teachers. Then an action plan will need to be developed. And then there are a lot of policy issues that the employer must do, like, for instance, teacher remuneration policy would need to be looked at. Employer should also bring in a policy that recognizes, rewards, and incentivizes teachers for professional development and their achievement. And then, of course, partnership and collaboration is very important. And then schools should be provided with resources to support this initiative. And of course, all participants who have participated in this will deserve recognition and list to be published. Yes, the last one, when there's need for high quality in-service training for the teaching field to upskill serving teachers and trainers, those that are indicated above. Thank you. I hope I don't take too much. At least this will serve the purpose. Thank you, coordinator.
Thank you very much, Professor Panserio. Thank you for the detailed example of Botswana. Lastly, we have Dr. Tladi to present. Please allow me to jump to your presentation. Yes, there it is. Yes, Dr. Tladi, the floor is yours. You have 15 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me an opportunity to present in this forum today. I'll be presenting on measuring teacher growth and instructional improvement through online CPD for teachers. And yes, the case study that I'm going to refer to is probably the one that Prof. Pansiri has just talked to. Broadly, of course, when we talk about continuous professional development, we are focusing on knowledge, new knowledge acquisition, and being able to develop new abilities in order to improve practice and student learning outcomes. That is the primary focus, student learning outcomes improvement. And as I said, CPD is mainly characterized by acquisition of new knowledge and skills beyond those that one would have acquired during their initial teacher training, preparation or what we refer to as pre-service. And effective continuous professional development, we want to see it impacting the practices of teachers, and even at times, resulting in some changes in their beliefs and knowledge as they interact with new developments in their area of specialization. And can you go to the next slide, please? And as Shafiq said earlier today, that at times we are triggered by changes in curriculum in order for us to think about teacher professional development. Those are some of the things that can actually push for CPD. And when you go for CPD, what are the priorities for professional development? As we said, expanding knowledge and skills, practical skills, and also improving pedagogical skills, classroom instruction management, so that delivery of instruction can be done in a manner that would result in most effective outcomes realized. And continuous professional development really is expected to be directly relevant and applicable to the classroom practice, because we expect it to provide opportunities for teachers to advance in their teaching careers and become more authentic leaders in their area of specialization. We want to open teachers up for new knowledge and new skills, new possibilities. We want to increase their confidence and competence so that they can be able to impact others, positively in the entire teaching profession. Can you move to the next slide, please? What are the key indicators of successful continuous professional development? Well, here I'm saying, for us to actually appreciate that there has been impact on when we take somebody through continuous professional development, what are the signs that will tell us that there is some positive impact? We should be able to see an improvement in the teachers' way of delivering the content, the teachers' knowledge and skills to cope with the latest developments in their area of specialization. because we know that knowledge is not static, knowledge is continuously changing. If you cannot cope with the changes, then you will end up teaching the past in the current. And mind you, you are teaching your current students are you are teaching them for their future. So if you cannot stay abreast, then you will not produce the kind of students who will actually interact very well with their environment and their economy in the future. We want to see a strong emphasis being placed on the significance of teachers having the autonomy to select their own continuous professional development. Once you take teachers through CPD, they should be able to appreciate the implications and the impact of CPD, such that they themselves will begin to drive their need for CPD. That is where we want to see them going for purposes of lifelong learning. Now, we want teachers to be given preference for online CPD that can be completed at a time of their own choosing. These days, we know that it is not possible that all the time you can find that teachers have or can be taken away from the classroom at a specific time to be able to undergo CPD. Therefore, we want them to be able to do that at their own time and at their own pace. Can you go to the next slide, please? So for us to evaluate this impact, we will be able to realize that the teachers will begin to implement innovative teaching methods in their day-to-day management of teaching and learning. We will see that students' performance will increase because ultimately, at the end of the day, that is the main target. That the interventions that are given to the students create a positive impact on the learning of the student. When we do lesson observations and feedback, we expect to see changes in the way the teacher presents the lesson. We want to see increased use or integration of technologies in their lessons. We want to see these teachers beginning to engage more in professional learning communities. We want to see teachers who can undertake self-reflections and set goals for themselves so that they have targets of what they want to achieve. And we want to see adaptability to diverse learning needs. These teachers will be able to leverage technology to cater for learners with diverse needs. And we can only do this through continuous professional development. Next slide, please. And the case study that I will briefly talk to has already been touched on by Professor Pansiri. We are working together on this AFTRA Botepco project. It is sponsored by the Commonwealth of Learning, and the main outcome of this project is to provide continuous professional development through the use of open educational resources in the Call Commons repository to teachers in Botswana. And it is a partnership between ourselves and Botswana and Botepco. I work for Botswana Open University, and Botswana University is a specialist in ODL delivery. It is the only ODL dedicated public institution in the entire country. And of course, our mode of delivery is flexible blended learning. And we are working on this called project to train teachers. We started with a group of 10 teachers who we engaged to evaluate 10 courses in the Core Commons repository. And then following the evaluation and prioritization, we enrolled a further 100 teachers and we to now do the prioritized courses. And we are now expanding the project to other regions. And it is a project that we hope will be able to, penetrate through the whole country. And the expected outcomes are that we expect increased teacher engagement and knowledge retention and positive impact on student learning outcomes. And then, of course, we want to, be able to draw from the lessons learned from the implementation process so that we can continuously improve the project. In conclusion, can you go to the next slide, please? So in conclusion, I just wanted to say that technology-supported continuous professional development is key to ensuring an up-to-date and responsive teachers for the 21st century. There is a need for adoption of appropriate quality management tools and strategies for effective measurement of the impact of the CPD interventions. We need to know what we require and to do what. The tools have to be to enable us to capture the necessary information that we will be able to analyze and from the findings feedback into the implementation process so that we can continue to improve implementation and for better results. And lastly, it is just to say that future trends indicate that institutions should adopt artificial intelligence-driven data analytics approaches to CPD evaluation so that we get a holistic view of what we input into the CPD projects, whether it is yielding the right output, if not, what is needed, and be able to determine how we can go about providing the necessary solutions to realize the intended outcomes. I think this is what I have put together for presentation today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The remaining 2 slides are just references, and the last slide is just the thank you. Muito obrigado, Bessie Boko.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Dr. Taladi. I think you are the best one in staying in time for the presentation. Thank you, and thank you to all of our presenters. Next, I would pass it to my colleague Mary Yan to lead the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to post them in the chat, or Mary Yan will facilitate the discussion. Please, Mary Yan.
I hope you can see me, colleagues, and hear me. All right, so we've had a few questions coming in, but I'd like to invite colleagues to please ask a few more by typing into the chat box or else going to the Q&A function on the bottom. So firstly, let me just announce that we've had a few comments and questions just in general, appreciating the presenters' wonderful resources and comments that are being cited as timely and as relevant for their contexts. So I would like to echo the participants by thanking the speakers for your presentations. It seems like there's a lot of interest in what you've been sharing today, and we might be asking you to follow up and to share some further resources from your organizations. There's quite a lot of interest in teacher training in technology across the board. If I could pose a couple of questions first. We have one question from Emmanuel Angam. How can I use AI to assess my learners for formative and summative assignments? So I would like to pose that first question. It's rather a practical one on AI for teacher usage in the classroom. And then another question that we're getting from Vincent Dale. It was in French, but I'm going to put it into English for everyone, that these programs sound very ambitious, but how to implement in many African countries where there's a problem of complete internet outage in rural areas and even electricity problems sometimes. So can I pose those two questions first, please? The one about AI to assess learners and the one about how to implement programs when there's a problem with internet outage. So speakers, over to you. I think I see that Liko Panye has unmuted. Are you going to share your response to either of these questions? I see that you're unmuted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I left. I forgot to mute after presenting.
Marianne, do you want to call on specific presenters to answer specific questions?
Mm. Well, from me, really, if I just saw a question from Sekele asking about the possible, whether it is possible for a collaboration from outside Botswana. I would say if you are speaking specifically to the project that I've been talking to, that Professor Pansiri was also mentioning. Unfortunately, with that project, it is driven mainly from our other partner side, Botepco, and we come in as ODL, experts to facilitate the rollout of the training to the other regions. So any further collaboration would probably be coming from their side. But as an institution, yes, we are interested in collaborating with other stakeholders within and outside the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dladi. Thank you. I think sharing the experience, also collaboration with other countries will be very helpful in this experience. I see there's a raised hand from Kenneth. Kenneth, I'm gonna ask you to unmute and you can ask the question directly.
Thank you very much, Professor. The presentation was quite good and I have learned quite a lot. That is my area of specialty as well. But, oh, by the way, I'm speaking from Zambia. I have noticed that over the years of my interactions with the different student teachers, as well as experienced teachers, they seem to have a very superficial understanding of really what it means to use ICTs in their teaching. Most of them, they think that when they use a projector, or maybe when they use a laptop to project something, for them that is sufficient enough and they are satisfied that they are using ICTs. But in my understanding, I think there must be something that goes beyond the superficial use of these gadgets in order to invoke the learning in the learners. So my question really is, how can we change this scenario such that our students or our teachers are able to really understand in depth how ICTs could be effectively used to cause learning in our learners? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Do we have any speakers who would like to respond to that question? Yes,
Perhaps I
Hannah,
can
please.
just add a little bit. I think, and this kind of speaks to a lot of the questions about how can AI-driven tools be used for teacher professional development, and also like how can technology be used in schools? How can we approach developing teachers' digital literacy? I really think that the key thing is being user-centered. So a lot of the issues I've seen with digital literacy initiatives are really focusing on types of technology that are just not what a teacher is going to find most accessible and easiest to use on a daily basis. So what we should be thinking about is how can we bring the kind of technological tools we want to the devices that teachers are most familiar with, which tend to be normal phones, so non-smartphones, or basic smartphones. So we should really be like directing our support to leverage the skills that teachers already have, because that makes it much easier for them to overcome the initial barrier to using like a new approach to their own teaching practices or to their professional development. And I think that that's also true when it comes to AI-driven tools. It's not, the best practice is not to use a one-size-fits-all approach. So we should really be looking at which are the tasks that AI could be most effective in helping teachers address. And teachers themselves don't really want to have their agency and their autonomy taken away from them. A lot of teachers take great pride in their work. So, you know, perhaps the AI tools we're looking at are things like developing quizzes or marking papers, or things that are very time consuming but are not actually removing the parts of their jobs where teachers really put their heart and soul into those. So that would be my kind of suggestion around that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Hannah. And I think that really echoes your presentation about we shouldn't just limit the device to computers, but all kinds of devices could be useful for ICT as well as AI. I see a hand from John Balamara. I'm going to ask you to unmute and pose your question.
Yeah, good afternoon, all. I am John from Sierra Leone, working for the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, based in Freetown at the headquarters. And I think this, for us as a country, technology is at the number 9 of our education sector plan. That is data and technology, and it's very important. So I have a question for some of them have been. My issue is how the AI teachers can maintain their space in this world of automation that is in this time of AI technology. Why? Because some from AI, like the presenter was saying, not everything we can give to AI to do for us, but those that are very difficult, time-consuming things we can give them. But we are for example, in our country, most of the teachers they don't have much content. They are not, most of them are not qualified, more in the rural communities. And if a teacher uses the AI and whatever the AI will give to that particular teacher, since he is not qualified, hasn't got all the content, can easily take what AI has given. And in that one, that will take the autonomy of teachers from them, because what now you are giving is not from you, is from the AI. So how do we support to make sure that they will not lose their autonomy, and how they can able to improve this? And secondly, the use of technology, electricity, and the network. Some of the parts of the country we are living, the internet is very bad, and technology is there is no light, and those kind of communities, what kind of AI tool we can use to make sure to develop themselves and their kids? Thank you so much. This is my question.
Thank you so much, John. Very interesting question about maintaining teachers' autonomy in the era of AI. Is there any speaker who would like to respond to that question? Maybe Dr. Taladi or Panseri or Professor Job?
I was thinking that Professor Gabriel Job would assist us with responding to Kenneth Likando from Zambia. But I think in most cases, really, like there is a recurrence of the concern from the questions that I see coming up in the chat on teacher, on autonomy, and it's like we are afraid that if we open up a little bit to technology and AI, it will kind of maybe push us out of our space. But I think it actually the reverse is true. We have to take advantage, leverage these technologies for us to be able to be pushed up front in the space. Because when your students realize that you are able or capable of using all these different types of technologies, they will begin to develop interest in your courses, because you will be actually actually going to them and reaching out to them where they are in the space that they function. So it would, for them, it is interesting, and it's a plus for you for us as educators to embrace technology, because like Likando was saying, technology use is not just the superficial use of an overhead projector with a laptop. We want to see content management systems where you can actually create repositories, create charts, and deposit content, have synchronous and asynchronous interactions with your students, and be able to incorporate even the use of social media in the process. So total interaction of all these elements of technology in teaching and learning is what, in a blended and flexible way, is what we I would say would entail proper use of ICT. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tladi. I think we have 10 more minutes for the Q&A session. I see a hand from Yehun. Yehun, could you please ask your question? Yehun, are you there?
You mean Jerome?
Oh, Jerome. Sorry, that was a French pronunciation, I guess. Jerome, if not, I'm gonna pass it to Aruna first and come back to you, Jerome. Hi, Aruna. Or Aruna, would you like to ask a question?
Do you catch me?
Yes, Aruna. Would you like to ask your
Okay,
question?
thank you. Yeah, thank you very much to all the participants and the program. I'm Kone Aruna from Ivory Coast. I'm from a French country and I teach English as a second language. And what I remark is that my students use AI for teaching. I mean, when I give an English test, instead of working, they teach, they take the AI to cheat, to translate. All those, the mobile phone are forbidden. So my question is, how can we forbid, or how can we be able to intercept the use of AI for teaching during our lessons? Because the film is about important AI, but in our country, students use it for teaching, not for improving their knowledge. So my question to the expert is, how can the teacher be able to intercept the use of AI as a tool of cheating during the lesson? Thank you. This is my concern.
Thank you so much, Aruna. I believe that's a very important question. How should we incorporate AI to actually help improve teaching and learning instead of sabotaging the opportunity to actually learn something? Do I have any speaker who's interested in responding to that? Maybe Hannah, since, or sorry, yes, Professor Job, please go ahead.
Yes, I think the most important thing is having the infrastructure provided by the government, and then the teachers should be knowledgeable enough. A trained teacher who is knowledgeable enough in these applications can now use it. Having the provision first, let the infrastructure be on ground, and then a teacher who is trained can now assess, the usage of these facilities, how AI, how ICT can be used to leverage performance. So if a teacher is knowledgeable enough, then you can handle it. So that's my take on it. First, the teachers should be knowledgeable. That's why we talk about professional training and retraining. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Job. I believe we have 5 more minutes. Can we have Stephen?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Stephen Ndaura, Chambogo University, Uganda. I'm a teacher educator for over 20 years, teaching educational technology. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. And I would just say, well, if anything, this would be procedure so that we go on having such webinars to help us, especially some of us who are teacher educators, and more so dealing with educational technology. An observation. Much of what we have and what we advocate for in as far as education technology tends to ignore assistive technology. That is people or learners or teachers with special needs in learning. And much more is to do with, say, people, if I could say learners, we say less of those programs. Now, given this opportunity and that we want to have this unpopularized, how can you have them not be left behind or not be ignored? I submit.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for your comments. Is there any?
Yeah, just to add a bit, Chair, to the response that was given earlier on how to deal with use of AI for academic dishonesty purposes. I want to suggest that in addition to ensuring that the teachers are well trained to be able to pick it, sometimes it is difficult, especially with some of the latest AI tools that we know are in the market. But I think what we need to do is try to move up the levels, Bloom's taxonomy levels. Go to the application levels where you then push the students to tap onto their knowledge, their experience, which they cannot get from the technology. Give them authentic assessment kind of items that will demand them to apply themselves as they respond to the assessment questions. Give them scenarios. Ask them to give account of how their environments can help them in their learning. That way, it sort of reduces, not totally eliminates, but it reduces the extent of cheating that you would otherwise get if you were to recall kind of questions where they have to rely on what they have been previously taught, because they can get that from sources online. So that is my advice.
Thank you very much, Dr. Talati. I think that's also echoes many minds in the room. I see Hannah, you're unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to that question about inclusivity. So I think the first important thing is to make sure that we document the different needs or abilities of teachers and where those needs are particular. Because I think that's something we don't necessarily have accurate data on. And not only does it mean that we don't include that as variables in research or in interventions, but it also means that if you were delivering technology like devices or developing content, you could easily miss teachers with particular needs in that group. The second thing I would say is that technology can actually be really helpful when it comes to adjusting for different needs. For example, if you have soft copies of things, it's much easier to zoom in, increase font size, etc., change language, and even have transcription or having audio versions of text. So there's lots of things that are freely available that actually make tech-enhanced TPD more accessible. But then you have the challenge of, do those teachers know how to use the technology, which again comes to this general question of digital literacy. And you have the question of, can those teachers access devices? So I think that I would say that first and foremost, we need to know what the needs are. So we make sure we're getting those teachers the right devices and the right support for digital literacy. But then I think actually technology can really help us to provide TPD that is more adaptive and responsive to different needs. But it is certainly a challenge. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Unfortunately, I think we ran out of time for question and answers, but you may type your questions in the chat box or Q&A will collect them. And also, as my director has introduced, we have the second unit on ICT and AI, and hopefully we can continue this conversation in the following month. I would like to ask Professor Steve to give us a closing remark for this very fruitful conversation. Professor Steve? Professor Steve, could you please? Could you mute? Okay.
Can you hear me
Yes,
well?
the floor is yours. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Please go
Yes. Some people are speaking at the background, but I should go on to appreciate all the presenters. And that's on behalf of Africa Federation of Teaching Regulatory Authorities, one of the parties interested in this webinar. The issues we're dealing with are very central to the work of regulators because, as you know, Africa Federation of Teaching Regulatory Authorities is the umbrella body of the national agencies throughout Africa, established by law to regulate teachers, to set standards, and to look towards producing a highly competitive teaching profession that can compete with teachers from anywhere in the world. So the issue of technology has come to be very central. And I remember being personally involved in conducting a research with Education International and other bodies about what happened to education during the COVID era. And we realized that Africa suffered a huge loss because education got grounded, and we could not continue. Therefore, the discussion about technology in education will remain something that AFTRA is highly interested in, and that's why we are a party to this webinar, and we will continue to show our high level of commitment. Thanks to all the speakers, and about 3 of them are actually AFTRA consultants working on IT in education, a project of AFTRA and the Commonwealth of Learning. And so that tells you so much about interest of AFTRA. And as Quentin has said, the upcoming AFTRA conference in Angola, which will take place from May 5 to 10th, we have also a big space for technology in education. The Commonwealth of Learning will be there with AFTRA and with all the consultants that spoke to you today, and many more, including 4 pilot countries, South Africa, Botswana, Nigeria, and Seychelles. There will be a series of presentations, even at the ministerial session, about what is happening on technology in education. And there will be exhibition as well on this same subject matter. That tells how much AFTRA is interested, and the presentations today have illuminated so much on what is going on. Very special thanks to Shafix, I think no colleague when we were in e-learning Africa, and I'm glad with the work she's doing, and her presentations on AI is far-reaching, especially the UNESCO framework on AI. And these are things that we have to, sensitize the teachers about, domesticate the frameworks, and make sure, as one of the speakers have said, technology in education is not just superficial, but something that is mainstreamed to make expected impact. So once again, on behalf of AFTRA and on behalf of the organizers, particularly thanks to Mary Ann and the good work she's doing with Victoria and all of those who have been putting this webinar together. We say thank you from AFTRA and from the rest of us. And we invite you to join us in the AFTRA conference in Angola, first week of May, where we will have exhibition and more presentations. And about 3 of the speakers you have today, as I said, are AFTRA consultants, and some of them will be speaking in Angola. And so we will continue to be part of this webinar because we know that it is impacting and achieving so much. So thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Steve. Yes, and thank you to everyone for coming. I would like to introduce you to the next one in this unit, which will be taking place on April the 3rd. And the topic will be on policy, funding, and institutional support for CPD programs for teachers. So you are more than welcome to join us again on April 3rd. And please share with this webinar with your network if you find it very useful. I would like to ask us to turn on the camera if possible, and we're gonna take a group photo for the good memory of our conversation today. Okay, I'm waiting for a few more. Yes, okay, I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. Thank you very much. And lastly, I would like to note that there is the link to the survey for your response and feedback for our webinar series. And for the recordings and PowerPoint, we'll make them available on our website at ICPA. We'll share. We'll send a follow-up email once we have the resources available. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
See you next time.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is so
Bye-bye.
lovely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.